The attorneys of Hollis, Wright & Couch are here to serve you. With civil trial lawyer Josh Wright from the firm of Hollis, Wright & Couch and Alabama's 13 host David Lamb, the attorneys answer your tough legal questions straight ahead.
Hello and welcome into the attorneys. Thanks so much for spending your Sunday evening with us. All throughout this program, you'll see information on your screen where you can get in touch with us because we'd love to hear from you and answer your questions. You can call, text, or email. Again, that information will be on your screen throughout the program tonight. Joined once again by Josh Wright of the firm Hollis, Wright & Couch. Good to see you, sir. And tonight's topic, we've got some video and some pictures about termites that just amazing.
This is an exciting show, and good to see you too, as usual. It's an exciting show, and termite infestation, termite damage is a significant problem in the South, specifically in the state of Alabama. We see this type of stuff come up at our firm quite a bit, and when we do, we go to a guy like Tom Campbell, who we brought on today. Tom is really an expert in this area. He is a lawyer. He litigates these cases, and some of the stuff you're going to see today, some of the very small things you see today, you'll be amazed that to a guy like Tom is an example of a potential problem that needs to be evaluated appropriately. And so, Tom, we're very excited to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on. I'm excited to show the viewers some of this video and some of the pictures. It's going to be a great show.
I'm glad to be here, Josh. I think we can tell people a lot about termites that they didn't know before, and dispel a lot of myths that termite companies use to convince homeowners that they don't have a problem when they actually have a devastating problem lurking behind their walls.
Yeah, and one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to show some video and some pictures and explain kind of termite damage, how it can be caused, how infestation can take place. But we're also going to talk about some litigation tips on issues that you need to, when you need to go find a lawyer, and issues that you need to handle to protect yourself.
Okay, and Tom, this is, you brought some video and some pictures that kind of show that you don't mind getting your hands dirty here. This is some of the video. Kind of give us an overview of the topic and of termites.
Well, nobody should have termite damage like this in their home.
Okay.
That cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair. I've had cases where homes have had to be torn down. But you can prevent termite damage 100% of the time if you vaccinate the home the way you're supposed to. If you don't, it winds up like this. And this is me in the crawl space of a customer's home in Mountain Brook, where we went down there, and those are my hands showing you the devastating damage. This is a load-bearing girder in this client's house.
That's not providing much support right there.
It's providing no support. And we literally went in there, and I could tear that wood up with my hands, as you're seeing right there. A devastating amount of damage. This company had been inspecting this house for years and assuring the homeowner she had no problems whatsoever.
That's amazing. Now, how long, to get to that point, how long must there have been neglect? I mean, how long does it take a termite to do something like that? Well,
it takes years. One of the misconceptions that I had before I learned more about termites than I ever wanted to as a child was that termites did damage very quickly, and they don't. A termite colony can eat about 9 linear feet, a 9-foot long piece of 2x4 every 9 months. So if you see extensive damage like this, you know that it took years to occur. And situations like we saw on this videotape is what we call in our office a Ray Charles or a Stevie Wonder case, where you literally can find the termite damage by just feeling it with your hands. But most of the time, as we'll talk about in the next segment, I think, you don't see anything. And the wood in your house behind the walls is being eaten up, and you don't discover it until something devastating happens.
And this raises an issue, Tom. When you've got somebody coming to inspect your home on a yearly basis, which many people do, for termite damage, these are the types of things that they should be looking for. Isn't that fair?
Right. We're going to show you some of the telltale signs of things that you can see with a good inspection if you're a professional that indicate you may have a disaster behind the walls. But another thing that the termite company is supposed to be doing every time they come and do an inspection is they're supposed to be reviewing their paperwork and looking at the home to determine whether they ever provided a vaccination against termites.
I noticed the pictures up too. Explain what we've got here on this brick wall.
What we've got here is a scraped termite tube, where termites are behind that wall. They've come through a tiny crack in that brick, and they have built a mud tunnel to travel in, because if they don't travel in a moist environment or build a mud tunnel when they're exposed to the elements, they'll dehydrate and die in a matter of hours. That's the primary difference between ants and termites. Ants have a hard shell on the outside, termites don't, so ants can travel where you can see them. Termites travel in hiding.
Okay, our next picture here, what are we looking at?
This is an example of what a termite inspector can see with a diligent inspection. That's a screw in the lower right-hand corner.
I was hoping that wasn't a termite.
In the circled area, that's about a 1-inch long piece of mud that's peeking out between a stud in a wall and the sheathing that's attached to that. And that's a tiny bit of mud. What that means behind that is that termites are eating the inside of that wood, and they've mistakenly traveled outside and they're trying to find more wood. They're putting mud on the outside to cover up the holes so that they don't get exposed to the air and dehydrate and die. But this is what a termite inspector is supposed to be looking for.
Okay, and our final picture.
Most of the time, unfortunately, if you have devastating damage in your home, it's like this. You never see it. They eat inside the wood, because if they're exposed to the air, they dehydrate and die quickly. So most of the time, you don't discover damage until floors start to buckle, the roof starts to leak, you get a ripple in the paint on your sheetrock, or you run the vacuum cleaner through a baseboard, and because the wall's collapsing, because the inside of your studs or your sill plates or your headers or your floor joists have been hollowed out by termites.
Okay, you clearly have our attention now after seeing all that right there. A question here that we've got: my termite company denied paying for repair to my home. I guess damage similar to what we've seen. How do I know if I have a case?
Almost every single person who's ever called my office has a case. Oftentimes they've been to other lawyers who've told them they don't have a case. The reason they have a case is because if you do the termite prevention treatment correctly, there has been data submitted to the government agencies that authorize the sale of termite chemicals that show that if you follow the recipe on the label, it will vaccinate a home from termite infestation, and it works 100% of the time for at least 5 years. So the reason someone's house is infested with termites is not because they're hard to control, which is what termite companies want to tell you. It's because they've never done or maintained the appropriate chemical barrier in the soil. And so if you have termite damage, you have a claim. The problem is that you have to know the science of termites, you have to know their habits and biology, you have to understand the chemical labels, the testing for efficacy for termites, and it's hard to gain that amount of knowledge as a lawyer if you're handling 1 or 2 termite cases in a career. You just can't invest the time and expense to learn that subspecialty of the law and figure out what you need to know to overcome the tricks that very able and wonderful defense lawyers on the other side of the case will use to lead you up blind alleys as a lawyer.
And David, now you know why we go to a guy like Tom. I mean, Tom Campbell, just knows his stuff, and he's a good person to know when you have these type problems. So when our firm sees these type problems, we go to him and we send clients to him that he has invested the time and the research and has the knowledge that's necessary to be successful in these cases.
And one of the things that you touched on, Tom, was how long the inspection should take. One of the questions we've got here, that for an 1,800 square foot home, it took about 10 minutes, and they didn't even come inside?
Well, when we try a case, usually the first person we call as a witness is a watchdog from the agency of the Department of Agriculture. They say it should take 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll get into explaining why.
Okay, all right, we'll do that then after the break. A termite show, everything you want to know about termites but we're afraid to ask. We're going to deal with it tonight. As we head to break, a reminder that you can get in touch with us, the information on your screen, ways you can call, text, email. Also find the firm Hollis, Wright & Couch on Facebook. Just search Hollis, Wright & Couch. They're on Twitter as well, Hollis_Wright. More termite talk after the break.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright & Couch, and thanks for watching The Attorneys on Alabama's 13. Now, we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never need legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple. Provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to this show or related to other civil legal matters, call, email, or text us to talk with one of our lawyers. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter to learn about important legal news that could affect you or your family. Or simply contact us by going to alabamas13.com and click on the Attorneys link. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and for watching The Attorneys right here on Alabama's 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Our conversation on termites is stirring quite a bit of reaction from you, but plenty of time for you to get your questions into us. That information will be on the screen, ways for you to call, text, or email your questions to us, and we'll do our best to get those to our panel of experts. Our conversation tonight having to do with termite litigation here with Josh Wright of the firm Hollis, Wright & Couch, and Thomas Campbell of Campbell Law Firm. And whenever we came in from break, talking about a 45-minute inspection, Tom, why does it need to be so long? What are they looking for?
Well, termite damage or signs of infestation is extremely difficult to detect, and it has to be done carefully by a trained professional.
Okay.
The work's not hard per se, but you have to really use a lot of effort and be careful about the way you inspect. You're looking for wood that sounds hollow, and you're looking for dirt and mud where it shouldn't be, on walls, on studs that are exposed. This is an example, as we talked about, where a mud tunnel has been built on someone's chimney inside their house in a case we're handling in California. And this is a sign that termites are inside that wall. We'll see what's behind the walls in this house in a moment, but this is the visible signs on the outside. This is in a garage down in South Alabama in Baldwin County, where there's a small 1-inch tube of termite mud peeking out behind this wall stud. And that's what they're supposed to be looking for, are these signs of mud, of ripples in sheetrock. They're supposed to take a camera, I mean not a camera, but a flashlight, and shine it down the side of your walls. And what they're looking for is tiny ripples that would show that termites have eaten the paper behind your paint on your sheetrock, and that little indentation that will develop is a sign that termites are tunneling between the paint and the plaster inside the sheetrock. And it has to be done carefully. They have to go from the basement or the crawl space all the way to the attic. And what happens usually when we try these cases and the state watchdogs say, yes, it should take 45 minutes to an hour, and they give the explanation that I just provided, the people that are sitting on the jury, the judge, the arbitrator, the court reporter, the bailiff, everybody knows, oh my God, I've been paying for a termite inspection $150 a year, and they've just been coming in giving me a show. And that's all that it is a show. So they can identify with the way that the plaintiffs in our cases have been cheated and why they failed to detect termite damage before it became devastating.
Two biggest things that we see, and Tom sees it too, are misrepresenting that they're actually doing the work. They'll come in, charge you, but they're really not doing anything but a 5-minute inspection. The second thing is arguing that they are overqualified or completely qualified to do what they're doing, and in fact they're not qualified. They don't have the skill and the ability to really be able to go and search this stuff if it's even right in front of them. And those are some things I'm sure you see too.
Right. And often what we see as well is that the termite company never discloses to the homeowner why they've got an infestation in the first place. What we'll see is they'll say, well, yes, you have some termite damage in your home. It's minor. We just need to replace a baseboard. We just need to replace the trim around a door. And really what they've got is devastating damage inside the walls that the termite company knows is there, and that the reason that it's there is because they've never applied the chemicals correctly to vaccinate the home from termite infestation. Okay. And they conceal that information when the claim arises.
Right. A question we've got here: bought a home 3 months ago, told that it was termite free. Husband just found significant damage in our crawl space. We've seen some evidence of that. Who all can be held responsible to fix the damage?
Well, you could hold, if the seller knew about the damage, you could hold them responsible for it if they were required to disclose it. But usually they're not. They're usually only required in Alabama, which is a state that follows the buyer beware rule. They're only required to disclose hidden defects in a home if it makes the home unsafe to live in or uninhabitable, or if you've asked them a direct question that would call for disclosure of that information. And usually that doesn't happen. And usually the seller is just as uneducated about how to do a termite inspection as the buyer, and the real estate agent too. If we can prove that they knew about it, you can have a claim against those people. But what we often try to do is to not bring claims against the seller and the real estate agent in those situations, because they usually did not know. Mm-hmm. And what we can usually establish is that the termite company did know, and when the claim arose, they continued to cover up information. The juries or the arbitrators get justifiably upset over this business practice, and they hold them accountable for it, as they should.
Yeah. And the extent of the damage, you've got more photos. Some of these pictures, it's just amazing to me that these were, this is a termite issue.
This is from a case we tried in Gadsden in January. The plaintiff was a school teacher dying of cancer on a walker. She was going to be homebound. They were going to pull her porch off, her sons were, and make a nice back porch that was covered for her to sit on as she lived out her time. And when they went to pull the porch off the back of the house, the sill plate behind it was completely eaten up with termites, and you could have shoved a basketball through that hole in the side of her house. Right. And the termite company had done an inspection and told her there were no problems in her home 3 months before this photograph was taken. Right. And they claimed that they went to her house every year and were applying a termite treatment every year, which many companies do. And that is not a termite treatment. It is not a termite treatment. The only thing those treatments will kill are ants and spiders and maybe crickets. And that is not a termite treatment. And when the jury in this case, the jury pool, found that out, that these were not for termite prevention, they were treatments to cover up not doing an inspection, the jury pool became furious.
I would imagine. Another photo that we've got, is this the behind a spot of termite mud?
This is behind the walls in the house where we saw the brick with the little bitty evidence of a scraped termite tunnel on it. This is what their house looked like when we took the wall covering off. Devastating amount of damage that had gone on in this house for probably 40, 50 years. Every wall in this house was eaten up almost as badly as demonstrated in this photograph.
What were the signs, Tom, in that example? What were the signs that somebody saw that recognized, hey, there may be a problem here?
Well, in this situation, our young couple that we represent in Central California bought the house. They went in. The first room she started painting was a bedroom, the guest bedroom. And she saw a piece of paint chipping off a baseboard, and she took the putty knife off to scrape the paint off, and when she did, it went through the baseboard. And she pulled the baseboard off, and then when she looked at the sill plate, it was destroyed by termites. She called her husband in a panic at work. He came home. They looked at it. They tore the sheetrock off the walls, and they continued. The termite company came and told them it was a limited problem. They didn't need to worry about it. They'd spend $300 or $400 in fixing it. Ultimately, weeks later, they hired a structural engineer and said, your house is going to have to be torn to the ground. They spent $270,000 to buy their first home. 3 weeks after they started tearing the sheetrock off, a professional told them it has to be torn to the ground. It had to be foreclosed on. They lost it. the home to foreclosure, and they had to continue to rent. And now not only do they not have a home, their credit's ruined for the next 7 years.
Talk about insurance, homeowners insurance. Does homeowners insurance step up and cover some of these things?
It used to. And what happened, Josh, and that's an interesting story, is the reason we have termite bonds and termite contracts is because until the early 1920s, people didn't know you could put out a chemical barrier to prevent termites. And so homeowners insurance covered it. But then when the insurance companies discovered that the most frequently filed claim in the South could be done away with if people would just have a termite vaccination, they started excluding it from coverage. So now you usually don't have recourse against your homeowner's insurance company.
So who is the target then generally?
Generally, it's your termite company because they knew how to vaccinate it, they failed to vaccinate it, they failed to nip the problem in the bud, and it became devastating.
Time for us to head to break. Our final segment of the attorneys coming right up. A reminder for you to get in touch with us. Still love to hear from you in this final segment. Also find the term Hollis, Wright, and Couch on Facebook. Search that term or Hollis_Wright. Find them on Twitter. Stay tuned. We're coming right back.
From all of us at the law firm of Hollis, Wright, and Couch, we're glad to have you here with us every Sunday night on Alabama's 13. This week we're discussing termite litigation. Information you need to know when it comes to protecting yourself and your property from termites. Now, termite damage is often a huge, unexpected financial loss for an individual or a business. What may appear to be a minor damage to a windowsill or a baseboard is often only a glimpse of the devastating destruction behind the walls and under the floor. A proper termite inspection should take as much as 45 minutes to an hour. It should include inspections from the basement or crawl space as well as up to the attic and roof. This type of inspection should catch termite damage early enough before the problem gets out of control. If you find termite damage, there are two main ways you may have a claim in a court of law in Alabama. First, if you received a wood infestation inspection report when you bought your home or business, but discovered termite damage soon after, you may have a claim. Second, you may also have a claim if you maintained a termite control contract and despite having the home or business treated, there is termite damage found. Please remember your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis, Wright, and Couch want to help answer your questions on real issues you face in your life. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. As always, thanks for watching the attorneys right here on Alabama's 13 on Sunday nights.
Time has flown by for sure, talking about the termite litigation, visiting with Josh Wright and Tom Campbell. And Tom, in terms of maybe some tips or tactics in dealing with the company, if you think maybe your home has been neglected when it comes to a termite inspection.
Well, what I'd like to tell people about is if you think you've got termite damage, you discover termite damaged wood in your home and you call the termite company out, there are three things that are often said that turn out not being true.
Okay.
Number one is it's carpenter ants. If there's mud and dirt in the wood, it's termites. The other thing is that moisture caused the problem. Moisture doesn't cause termite infestations. And the third thing is they tell people that they don't have coverage for repairs, they only have a retreatment bond. And they still have a legal claim because the company never did the treatment in the first place almost every time. And so they have claims. This is what happens. This customer is a lawyer client of mine that was told they have had $600 in termite damage. And this is his former dining room. They had to tear every bit of the room apart and start from scratch.
Wow. Yeah.
Things behind the walls just shows you. I mean, it's a great example. Be careful.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, seeing pictures like that kind of makes you wonder, what can we do? How can we make sure that we're getting what we pay for, first of all, but second of all, that we can prevent something like that?
The problem is we really can't. It's like this is a professional service. It requires expertise to know how to do it, and you just have to trust these people like we have to trust our doctors or our lawyers or our accountants, that they're using their specialized knowledge to protect us.
Right.
And when they don't, it's sometimes devastating, but we just have to trust them.
Right. Time just enough for a final thought from you two, Tom?
Well, what I would say is if people think they have a problem, they usually do, and they need to call a lawyer who knows what they're doing, or they need to call the watchdogs in Montgomery. The Department of Agriculture in Montgomery regulates this industry. Violating their regulations is a crime, and you can call them if you suspect a problem. They will send an inspector who knows what he's doing out to do an inspection for free.
And I'd wrap up too with this. Most lawyers handle cases on a contingency, so it may not cost you a cent to have a lawyer come out and evaluate your case. Get with the experts. Get with guys like Tom. Call, email, or text our show. We'll get you in touch with Tom. If you think you have a problem, watch for those problems carefully. And make sure, I think you can stay on top of your termite company by simply making sure that you're making phone calls to them, even writing letters to them, letting them know that you think you have problems and that you want to make sure they're doing their job. So I think you can stay on top of them too.
All right, so if the termite inspection is taking 10 minutes, let them know that it's going to have to take longer than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're just putting on a show if they're 10 or 15 minutes.
And there are other companies out there, so you got options. We appreciate it. Gentlemen, thanks so much for the time tonight.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much. Here's the way you can get in touch with us. Love to hear from you. Find Hollis, Wright & Couch on Facebook. Search Hollis, Wright & Couch. And on Twitter, Hollis_Wright. We appreciate you being with us. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next Sunday night for the attorneys.